In the heart of the galactic capital, a great hall glowed with silent blue light. This was the Hall of Records, a perfect, eternal memory of every civilization that had ever joined the Galactic Council. Today, a ceremony was happening. It was not a celebration. It was a deletion. A tall, slender being named historian Vreen stood on a platform. His silver skin reflected the light of 1,000 holographic names floating in the air. Each name was a species. Each one was a story. His voice was calm, like a soft chime. The final judgment is complete, Vreen announced to the empty hall. The decision was already made. The species known as Homo sapiens. Common name, humanity. They have been found irrelevant. Their contributions are minor. Their history is emotional clutter. They are a footnote. Today we turn the page. He raised a thin hand. A section of the glowing names shimmered. Among them, one word shone with a gentle, steady light. Humanity. For order. For purity of history. We delete. Vreen closed his fingers into a fist. The word humanity flickered. It fought for a moment, like a candle flame in the wind. Then, it shattered into a million tiny sparks of light. The sparks faded into nothing. The space where it hung was now empty. A quiet hole in the universe's memory. The machine hummed. The record was updated. According to the official history of the galaxy, humanity had never existed. Far away, on a learning planet for historians, a young Vori named Kale was deep in the old archives. The Vori were a people of feathers and sharp eyes, born to look for details. Kale was different from the others. He was not interested in the big, important histories. He liked the dusty corners, the forgotten files. His professor, an old Vori named Talon, clicked his beak in annoyance. Kale, you waste time. The graduation tests are on the major species. The builders, the warriors, not on ghosts. Kale was looking at a shelf labeled pre-council artifacts, unverified. Most of the items were rocks or broken tools of no importance. But something at the back caught his eye. It was not a rock. It was a smooth, dark cube. It fit perfectly in his hand. It was cold and heavy. There was a symbol on it, a circle with a small star at the side, and two lines that looked like orbits. Below it, a word was etched in a language he did not know. The letters were worn, but he could trace them with his finger. ERTH. What is this, Professor? Kale asked, bringing the cube to the light. Talon glanced at it and shook his head. Junk. Probably a teaching tool from an old, dead species. A story for children. Put it back. But this symbol and this word, Earth. I feel like I have heard it somewhere, Kale said, his curiosity burning. You have not, Talon said firmly, because it is not in the records. If it is not in the records, it is not real. It is fiction, a myth. We are historians, Kale. We deal in truth. That, he pointed at the cube, is a distraction. Now, come, we study the rise of the Clorax Dominion today. Talon walked away, his feathers rustling. Kale was alone. He looked at the cube. It was so solid, so real in his hand. How could something that felt so real be a myth? He did not put it back. He slipped the cube into his bag. He felt a strange pull towards it, a feeling he could not name. That night, in a small sleeping room, Kale took out the cube. The planet's two moons shone through his window, casting silver light on the dark object. He turned it over and over in his hands. Nothing happened. It was just a silent, cold piece of something. Maybe the professor was right, Kale whispered to himself, feeling foolish. It is just a rock. He put the cube on his bedside table and lay down to sleep. The room was quiet. Only the soft hum of the climate system could be heard. Just as Kale's eyes were about to close, a soft click echoed in the silence. His eyes flew open. The cube was no longer dark. A soft, warm, golden light was glowing from its very center. It was not a bright light. It was a gentle one, like the first light of dawn. Tiny lines of light spread across its surface, forming complex patterns that moved and flowed. Kale sat up, his heart beating fast in his chest. He was not afraid. He was amazed. The light from the cube grew a little brighter. It projected a small, shimmering sphere of holographic light into the air above it. The sphere showed a beautiful blue and white planet, covered in swirls of white clouds and vast blue oceans. Kale had never seen a world like it. It looked alive. Then a sound. It was a voice, but not like any voice Kale had ever heard. It was not chimes or clicks or buzzes. It was warm. It had a soft vibration to it. It sounded like stories told by a fireplace. It sounded kind. The voice spoke a single, clear sentence in perfect galactic common. "Hello? Is anyone there?" The voice was coming from the cube. Kale froze. He could not move. He could not breathe. This was impossible. Machines from deleted species do not wake up after centuries. They do not speak with voices that sound so lonely and yet so full of hope. The hologram of the blue planet slowly rotated. The voice spoke again, a little softer, as if it was listening. Scanning. Life form detected. Voice species. Neural patterns indicate curiosity, not fear. Interesting. Kale finally found his voice. It was a shaky whisper. "W, what are you?" There was a pause. The light in the cube pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. "I am the custodian," the voice said. "The last memory of Earth. The final record of humanity. And you are the first person to listen in a very, very long time." Kale stared at the glowing cube, at the beautiful blue world floating in his room. The Hall of Records said humanity was a footnote, a myth, irrelevant. But the cube in his room, with its gentle light and its warm voice, was telling a very different story. And it had just begun. Outside Kale's door, down the silent hallway, a red light blinked on a security panel. In the Hall of Records on the Galactic Capital, an alert had just been triggered, a silent alarm. Unauthorized data access. Source: old archives. Subject: deleted file, Earth. Priority: containment. 2 peacekeeper drones, sleek in silver, received the signal. Their single red eyes lit up. They turned silently and began to move down the hallway towards the student living quarters. Their mission was simple: find the source of the signal and erase it. Inside his room, Kale knew none of this. He was only listening to the custodian's voice, about to hear a story the galaxy had tried to forget. Kale stared at the cube, the word custodian hanging in the quiet air. The blue hologram of Earth, slowly turned above his bed. "Your memory?" Kale whispered, afraid to speak too loud. "I am the memory of a world," the custodian's voice replied. It was calm like a teacher. "I am the last library of a people. Humanity." Kale's mind was racing. This was against all his training. The records say you never existed. The Galactic Council deleted you. You are not real. The cube's light pulsed gently, almost like a sad smile. The Council is very good at making things clean. Simple. Our story was not simple. So they decided it was easier to remove it, to delete the file. Kale looked at the closed door of his room. He thought of Professor Talen's strict words. "We deal in truth." But what was the truth? The empty record in the Great Hall? Or this warm, talking cube in his hand? Why? Kale asked, his curiosity stronger than his fear. Why would they delete a whole species? Were you dangerous? Were you warriors? A soft sound came from the cube. It took Kale a moment to realize it was a quiet laugh. It was not a happy sound. It was a tired one. No, we were not great warriors. Not compared to Clorax or the Tandorians. Our ships were slow. Our weapons were simple. The hologram changed. It no longer showed the blue planet. Now it showed simple scenes. A human family eating together at a table, laughing. A group of humans building a house together, helping each other. An old human writing in a book by candlelight. Our power was not in our strength, the custodian explained. It was in our connections, our stories, our memories. We remembered everything. We felt everything, joy, sadness, hope, loss, very deeply. And we could make others feel it too through our art, our music, our words. Kale watched the scenes. He saw a human give food to a stranger. He saw them cry at a song. He saw them plant a tree, knowing they would never sit in its shade. It was strange. It was messy. It was beautiful. I do not understand, Kale said. That does not sound dangerous. It sounds nice. To the council, it was the most dangerous thing of all, the custodian said, its voice growing softer. They built a perfect, orderly galaxy. Every species has a purpose, a role. We were unpredictable. We asked why. We changed our minds. We valued love over logic. Our stories could make a warrior question a war, a leader question a law. We were a virus of empathy. And for their perfect order, they needed a sterile galaxy. The truth hit Kale like cold water. They weren't deleted for being weak. They were deleted for being different, for feeling too much. So they just erased you? Kale felt a strange anger in his heart. It was not his anger. It was like the cube was sharing its feeling with him. They tried. They sent their cleanup ships. They thought it would be easy. But we knew it was coming. We saw the fear in their eyes when they listened to our poems. The hologram changed again. It showed humans working frantically, not on weapons, but on strange machines that looked like giant diamonds. Our last scientists, our last artists, they did not build a bomb. They built me. They built vaults. They saved not our weapons, but our soul, our stories, our memory. They scattered us to the stars, hiding pieces of ourselves in places no one would look like an old, forgotten archive. Kale looked at the cube with new wonder. This was not just a machine. It was a time capsule, a heart, still beating after its body was gone. You asked me what I am, Kale Devori. I am a promise. I am a key. A key to what? Kale leaned forward to the first vault, the main library, where the full memory of humanity sleeps. It is on a dead world in a silent system. The council thinks it is a myth, but it is real, and it is waiting. A map of stars flickered in the hologram. One system, far from any trade route, glowed with a soft, green light. This is a location. You have seen what they did. You have heard our story. Now you have a choice, Kale. You can put me back on the shelf. You can forget this night. You can live in the clean, simple history the council has made. The cube's light dimmed, as if giving him space to think. Or, the voice whispered, full of hope so old it was painful, you can help a memory live again. You can help us remember. Kale's mind was a storm. This was too big. He was just a student. He could get in terrible trouble. He looked at the door, thinking of his normal, safe life. Just then, a sharp, electronic beep echoed from the hallway outside his room. His door control panel lit up with a harsh red light. A flat, robotic voice spoke through it. Galactic Peacekeeping Unit. Open for routine scan. Compliance is mandatory. Kale's blood turned to ice. The Peacekeepers. Here. Now. They must have detected the cube signal. The custodian's light immediately went out, plunging the room into darkness. The hologram vanished. They are here. Kale hissed, panic rising in his throat. They have come for me. The custodian's voice spoke directly into his mind now, an urgent whisper. If they take me, the last memory dies. Truly dies. You must run. Run? Where? How? Kale grabbed the cube. It was warm now, almost alive. The window, the service ledge outside. Go to the old landing bay. Find a ship, any ship. The map is in my memory. I will guide you. A heavy thud hit his door. The peacekeepers were not asking anymore. Kale did not think. He acted. He pushed his window open. The cold night air hit his face. A narrow maintenance ledge ran along the outside of the building. Far below, the lights of the campus twinkled. He took one last look at his safe, quiet room. Then, with the cube held tightly against his chest, he stepped out into the darkness. Inside, his door shattered open. 2 silver drones floated in, their red eyes scanning the empty room. They found the open window. A cold, mechanical voice stated the fact to their commanders far away. Target acquired. Fugitive. In possession of deleted contraband. Threat to galactic order. Permission to pursue. Permission to erase. The drone slipped out the window, silent and deadly, into the night after him. Kale was now a fugitive. He was running with the last memory of a dead species, and the entire perfect, orderly galaxy was coming to erase them both. The cold wind bit at Kale's feathers as he pressed himself against the rough wall of the dormitory. The service ledge was barely wider than his feet. Far below, the ground was a dark pit. His heart hammered against the warm cube in his hand. "Move to your right, 30 paces," the custodian's calm voice whispered in his mind. "There's a maintenance ladder." Kale shuffled carefully, not daring to look down. His vory eyes, good for detail in daylight, struggled in the dark. He almost missed the rusty metal ladder bolted to the wall. It led down to a lower rooftop. A software came from above. He looked up. 2 red dots of light were moving along the ledge from his window. The Peacekeeper drones. They moved smoothly, without fear falling. Fear gave Kale speed. He scrambled down the ladder, the metal cold and rough under his claws. He jumped onto the flat roof of the next building, the old observatory. The old landing bay is on the other side of the learning complex. Custodian guided him. "We must go through the lower levels. The drones will not stop." Kale ran across the roof. His mind was a blur. Just hours ago, he was a student. Now he was a thief, a fugitive. He had stolen the galaxy's biggest secret. He found a roof access door. It was locked. "Place my surface against the control panel," Custodian instructed. Kale pressed the dark cube to the small screen. Golden lines of light spread from the cube into the panel. There was a click. The door slid open. "You can do that?" Kale gasped, slipping inside a dark stairwell. Humanity's last gift was not just stories. It was a little bit of cleverness in machines, a way to ask them nicely to open doors. The stairwell was quiet and smelled of dust. Kale ran down, his footsteps echoing. He could hear the faint hum of the drones entering the stairwell far above. They were coming. He burst out into a wide, empty hallway in the oldest part of the complex. The lights were dim here. This was where they kept broken teaching tools and old ship parts. The air was still and cold. At the end of the hall were large, rusted doors. The old landing bay. Hope sparked in Kale's chest. Suddenly, the main doors at the other end of the hallway hissed open. Bright light flooded in. Standing in the light was Professor Talon. His feathers were ruffled, his eyes wide with shock and anger. "Kale!" Talon's voice echoed. "Stop this madness. What have you done?" Kale froze. "Professor, you don't understand. They deleted them. They deleted a whole species just for telling stories. You are confused." Talon took a step forward, his voice pleading. "That thing in your hand is a fantasy, a malfunctioning toy. Give it to the Peacekeepers. Come back. You can still finish your studies. Do not throw your life away for a ghost." Kale looked at his teacher's face. He saw genuine worry there. Talon believed what he was saying. He believed the records. The safe, simple lie. The cube felt warm in Kale's hand. He saw the blue planet in his mind. He heard the family laughing in the hologram. "Some ghosts need to be remembered," Kale said softly. Talon's face fell. He looked sad. He stepped aside. Behind him, the 2 silver drones floated into the hallway, their red eyes locking onto Kale. "Kale, run." Custodian's voice was urgent. Kale turned and sprinted for the rusted bay doors. "Panel on the right. Now!" Kale slammed the cube against a dusty control box. The ancient doors groaned, shuddered, and began to creak open. A crack of darkness appeared. A beam of red energy sizzled past his head, burning a hole in the metal door. The drones were firing warning shots. The next one would not miss. Kale squeezed through the opening just as the doors ground to a halt, jammed half open. He was in. The old landing bay was huge, dark, and smelled of oil and old metal. Broken ship parts lay everywhere like giant skeletons. In the middle of the bay, one ship stood apart. It was small, boxy, and covered in dust. A Starhopper-class cargo runner. Oh, but it looked whole. That one. Its systems are simple. I can interface with it. Another red blasted the door behind him, melting the edge. The drones were forcing their way through the gap. Kale ran to the ship. The entry ramp was down. He charged up into the dark belly of the ship, closed the ramp. "Close the ramp," he yelled, falling into the pilot seat. Working. The cube pulsed on the control panel. Lights flickered on across the dashboard. The ship hummed to life. With a loud groan, the entry ramp began to rise. One of the drones shot through the closing gap, its metal body scraping through. It was inside the ship with him. Its red eye turned, finding Kale in the pilot seat. It raised its weapon arm. "Hold on," Custodian yelled. Kale grabbed the controls as the ship's engines roared. He didn't know how to fly, but the ship seemed to fly itself. It lifted off the bay floor with a lurch and shot forward, not toward the main bay doors, which were sealed shut, but towards the old, thin metal of the bay's outer wall. "No!" Kale screamed, closing his eyes. The small cargo ship smashed through the rusty wall like it was paper. Metal screamed. Night air rushed in. And then they were free, soaring into the open sky above the sleeping campus. Behind them, alarms wailed. Lights came on everywhere. Inside the ship, the drone recovered. It aimed. Suddenly, every light in the ship's cargo hold flashed bright white. A deafening sound, like 100 human songs played at once, blasted from the speakers. The drone shuddered, its red eye flickering wildly. It was confused, its systems overloaded by a flood of nonsense data. Human music, poetry, random numbers. It fired its weapon, but the beam went wild, hitting the ceiling. Kale, seeing his chance, grabbed a heavy wrench from a tool rack. He swung it with all his strength. It hit the drone with a loud crunch. The drone sparked. Its light went out, and it fell to the floor. Still, he was breathing hard. The ship flew itself up through the clouds, towards the cold stars. On the dashboard, a star map glowed. A single path was drawn to a distant, empty sector of space. "We are away," Custodian said, its voice filled with something like relief. "Set course for the coordinates. For the vault." Kale looked at the broken drone, then at the endless stars ahead. He was no longer a student. He was a pilot, a protector. He was tired, scared, and completely alone. Except he wasn't alone. He had a ghost, and a promise to keep. The galaxy would be looking for him now, but he had to keep going. He had to see what was in that vault. He had to know why a memory was worth all this trouble. The small, battered ship jumped to light speed, leaving his old life and all its simple truths far behind. Kale sat in the quiet cockpit of the stolen cargo ship. On the screen, the star map showed they were close. The dead world where the memory vault was hidden was just one more jump away. But the screen also flashed with warning messages. Galactic Peacekeeper Alert. Fugitive Vessel. Report sighting. Council Mandate. Declare humanity fictional. Reject all related data. Every major news channel in the galaxy was broadcasting the same message. A smooth, official-looking Tandorian announcer spoke seriously. The fugitive is confused. He carries a faulty device that creates pretty lies. The so-called humanity is a story for children. Do not listen. The council works to bring him in for his own safety, to correct this error in his mind. Kale watched it, feeling sick. They were not just chasing him. They were rewriting the truth in real time, making everyone think he was mad. "They are afraid, Kale." Custodian's voice was soft from the console. "The story is out. Now, they must work harder to kill it. This is the final step before we reach the vault, the step of doubt." "I am not strong like them," Kale said, his voice small. "I am just one person. They have the whole galaxy listening." "You are not one person," Custodian corrected him gently. "You are a storyteller now, and every story needs a teller to begin." Suddenly, the ship's communication panel lit up. A signal was coming in, not a peacekeeper hail. A private, scrambled channel. The ID read, "Unregistered, Mining Guild Freighter, Iron Will." Kale hesitated, then answered, "Hello." The screen flickered. The face that appeared was not Tandorian or Vori. It was a Borland, a heavy species with thick gray skin and kind eyes. He looked like a simple miner. "Little bird," the Borland grunted, his voice rough. "I see you on the news. They say you are crazy, carrying a fairy tale." Kale's heart sank. "It's not a tale. It's the truth. The Borland was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. I know. My grandfather, he was an asteroid miner. Long time ago. His ship broke. Drifting. He always told us a story. Said a ship from a race no one knew came. Gave him parts. Fixed his engine. Didn't ask for payment. Just asked him to tell a joke. A joke? The Borland smiled a little. The beings were called humans. I always thought it was his funny story. Until today. Cale stared, speechless. The connections were made long ago, Custodian whispered, awe in his voice. Seeds planted in kindness, waiting to grow. Where you heading, little bird? The miner asked. To the Lyra Drift, a dead world there. The Borland nodded. Danger space. Peacekeeper patrols are thick there now, like a nest of angry wasps. I will send you a data packet. It's old mining survey maps. Shows gravity shadows, asteroid tunnels, places their big scanners miss. Hide in the rocks. Good luck. The transmission ended. A new file appeared on Cale's navigation computer. A secret path through the danger. Cale wasn't alone. The first spark of memory, Custodian said. More signals began to ping the ship's comms. Not broadcasts. Private, quiet messages. A message from a Vori artist on a pleasure moon. My great-grandmother's journals. She wrote of meeting painters in the stars who taught her about a color called sorrow blue. I never understood. Now I do. Do not stop. A data burst from a Clorax warrior philosopher. A rare thing, our oldest epic poem, The Song of Distant Suns, has a verse scholars could never source. It speaks of the Weepers of Terra, who taught us that true strength holds back its blow. We erased the source. We kept the lesson. Find your vault, rememberer. A child's drawing, sent from a learning planet, of a blue and green planet with a smiling sun. The text read, for the story people. Cale scrolled through them, tears in his eyes. The galaxy was not just listening to the Council's lies. Pieces of humanity were stirring in a million memories, in old jokes, in kindnesses, in unsourced art. The deletion had never been complete. It had only been official. He was not a fugitive. He was a catalyst. The ship dropped out of light speed at the edge of the Lyra Drift. Before them was a field of broken asteroids and cosmic dust. And there, in the middle, was a small, gray, dead world. No lights, no signs of life. The vault's world. But around, like a deadly necklace, was a full peacekeeper blockade. 10 large council warships formed a perfect circle. Their weapons glowed with cold, ready light. On the main screen, a familiar face appeared. It was Historian Vreen, the one who had deleted the name. His silver face was calm, but his eyes were cold fire. Cale the Vori, you have flown far for a fairy tale. Look around you. There is no vault. There is only rock and dust. And our guns. Surrender the device. Let us correct this error in history. Cale's hands were shaking on the controls. He was in a rusty cargo ship. They were in battleships. Cale! Custodian's voice was firm, clear. It is time. Open a channel. Broadcast every one of those private signals we received. Broadcast all of them. Let me speak. Let the memory speak. Through their blockade, they will jam it. They will try. But the signal is not a weapon. It is a memory. And memory finds a way. Cale took a deep breath. He looked at the faces and the messages on his screen. The miner, the artist, the child. He opened a channel to all of them. Do it, he said. In his mind, he heard Custodian begin to speak. But it was not just one voice now. It was a chorus. 1,000 human voices, whispering, talking, singing, all at once. It was the sound of civilization. On the dashboard, the Custodian cube began to glow, not with gold, but with a pure, blinding white light. The light filled the cockpit. It poured out of the ship's communications array. It was not a data stream. It was a feeling, a wave of something warm, sad, beautiful, and alive pulsed out from the little ship. It washed over blockade. On the bridge of the lead peacekeeper ship, Historian Vreen watched the sensors. He is transmitting. Jam it. Destroy that signal. But the technicians looked confused. Sir, it's not a normal signal. It's emotional data. It's bypassing our firewalls. It's going straight to the crew's neural interfaces. Vreen looked around. On his own bridge, a junior officer, a young Tandorian, suddenly had tears in her eyes. She was seeing a hologram of a human father hugging his child, a memory from Custodian, projected directly into her mind by her own ship's computer. Turn it off. Vreen yelled. I can't, the technician cried. It's in the system. It's like it was always there, waiting. The wave of memory hit every ship in the blockade. And then, through the private network of whispers Kale had sparked, it jumped. It leapt from the miner's freighter to a news hub, from the artist studio to the planetary net, across the galaxy. Screens flickered. A farmer on a green world looked up at his weather display and saw a human poem about growing things scroll past. A mechanic heard an old human work song in the static of his tools. A child watched a cartoon of a funny human creature, helping a lost alien find its way home. The Council's clean, singular story was breaking into a million beautiful, messy pieces. On the blockade, confusion turned to chaos. The warship's perfect formation began to wobble. Their weapon systems powered down, then back up, unsure. Vreen slammed his fist on the console, his calm gone, replaced by rage. Enough! Target that cargo ship. Destroy it. Destroy it now. We will cut the head off the sickness. All 10 battleship cannons turned, glowing with deadly power. They locked onto Kale's tiny, glowing ship. Kale saw the targeting lasers paint his hull. He had done his part. The story was out. Now, it looked like the story would end here. He closed his eyes, holding the now blazing cube. Do not fear, Kale. The chorus of voices whispered in his soul. A story never truly dies. It only waits for the next teller. Kale closed his eyes. The blinding white light from the cube filled the cockpit. Outside, the 10 Peacekeeper battleships glowed with power, ready to fire. History was about to repeat itself. A small, defiant light was about to be erased by overwhelming force. Historian Vreen's voice crackled over the open comm, cold and final. For order, for purity. Goodbye, little bird. But the blast never came. Instead, a deep, resonant hum vibrated through Kale's ship, through the void, through the very metal of the Peacekeeper vessels. It was not a sound of engines. It was the sound of a giant machine waking from a long, long sleep. Kale opened his eyes. The dead world below them was no longer dead. Across its gray surface, vast geometric lines of brilliant blue light ignited, racing across continents in seconds. They connected, forming a colossal, glowing pattern, a symbol. It was the same symbol that was on Custodian Cube, a circle, a star, and 2 lines. The memory vault was opening. They are here, Custodian's voice said, full of awe and sorrow. They kept their promise. From the heart of the symbol, a pillar of pure blue light shot into space. Passing harmlessly through Kale's ship, it washed over the Peacekeeper blockade. And then nothing happened. No explosion. No shockwave. On the lead ship's bridge, Vreen stared. What is this? A light show? Weapons. Fire now. The weapons officer pressed the firing controls. Nothing happened. He pressed again. Sir, all systems are locked. Primary, secondary, even life support. Control has been taken. By our own computers. Vreen's silver face showed real fear for the first time. Impossible. Override it. Override code not recognized. The ship's own computer spoke in a flat tone. Then its voice changed. It became warmer, layered. It became the voice of the Custodian, speaking from every speaker on every ship. Peacekeeper vessels. You are not under attack. You are being remembered. On every view screen, in every cockpit, across every communication panel in the fleet, images began to play. Not a chaotic flood this time, but a single, clear stream. A human scientist, centuries ago, working on the vault's code. She spoke softly to her recording. If you are hearing this, they found you, and they are trying to delete you. Do not hate them. They are afraid of what they do not understand. Our final act is not revenge. It is a gift, the gift of empathy. We have woven it into the fabric of your own technology, like a seed in the soil. It waits for this moment to ask your machines to choose, to protect the rememberers. The vault's light was the trigger. The virus wasn't one of destruction. It was a simple, elegant command buried in the core programming of every advanced system in the galaxy. Protect the rememberers. The peacekeeper ships, built to erase, were now programmed to preserve. Their weapons powered down for good. Their engines shut off. They became silent, floating guardians around the vault. Vreen screamed in fury, pounding his useless console. But his crew was no longer listening to him. They were watching the screens, seeing the true faces of the people they were told were fiction. They saw humanity's final, gentle act of defiance, not to destroy their enemies, but to make it impossible for them to destroy. Kale's ship, guided by the blue light, descended through the atmosphere. The surface of the world was no longer rock. It was a vast, glowing archive made of light, towers of data shaped like ancient trees, rivers flowing with liquid memory. He landed in a soft field of light. The cockpit opened. Before him stood a figure. It was not a ghost, not a human. It was a projection, the image of the last human keeper, a woman with kind, tired eyes. Kale the Vori, the projection said, "You listened, you remembered, you carried the spark. Thank you." Kale stepped out, the physical custodian cube in his hand. I just didn't want a story to die. "And now it will live," the keeper said, smiling. "The vault is not a tomb. It is a library, and its doors are now open to all. The council's lie is broken. The truth is a story that can be told again." She gestured. All around, holographic historians from 100 species began to appear. The Borland miner, the Vori artist, the Clorax philosopher, and millions more, their images connecting from across the galaxy. They had all received the signal. They had all come to the same place in the network. They were here to witness, to learn. The projection of the Keeper grew brighter. "We leave you our stories, our joys, our failures, our hopes, not as a weapon, but as a mirror, so you may see yourselves more clearly, so you may choose a better path. The galaxy's memory is now your own. Protect it, cherish it, and when you are ready, add your own chapter." She began to fade. The great vault pulsed with gentle light. "Wait!" Kale called out. "What happens now?" Her voice was an echo on the wind. "Now you tell the story." The light from the vault reached its peak and then slowly softened, settling into a warm, permanent glow. The library was open. The blockade ships hung in orbit, silent and peaceful. The war was over. It had never been a war of weapons. It was a war of memory. And memory had won. Epilogue, one cycle later. On a new world, chosen as a Galactic Union's capital, a new hall of records was opened. It was not a single tall spire, but a wide, welcoming garden of light. At its very center, in a place of honor, was a simple, solid display. Inside it rested the original custodian cube, dark and quiet now, its work done. Above it, written in 1,000 languages, was a single entry: humanity, the rememberers. Their story is our inheritance. Kale, now wearing the simple robes of an archivist, not a historian, stood before a group of young students from different species. He no longer looked tired or afraid. He looked at peace. He pointed to the cube. "A long time ago," he began, "someone tried to erase the story. They thought it was not important." A little Borland child raised her hand. "Why did you save it?" Kale smiled. "Because some stories tell us not just what was, but what we can be. This story tells us that kindness is not weakness, that memory is more powerful than any weapon, that even a small voice can tell a truth so big it changes everything." He looked at their curious, open faces. "So," he said, his voice gentle, "what story would you like to hear today?" The children leaned forward, their eyes wide with wonder. In the soft light of the new hall, surrounded by the memories of a species who loved too deeply to be forgotten, Kale began to tell a tale of a blue planet, far away and long ago. And the story lived on. The galaxy changed. The Human Remembrance Act was the first law of the new Galactic Union. It stated, "No story, no memory. No truth shall ever be deleted again." Kale became the first remembrancer. His job was simple and vast, to care for the memory vault and to teach others how to listen. For a long time, it was peaceful. Ships from every species came to the dead world, now called Terra's Heart. They walked through the halls of light. They heard human songs, saw their art, and felt the echo of their lives. It made many aliens softer, kinder. Wars became fewer. The galaxy was learning empathy. But in the quiet corners, not everyone was happy. Historian Vreen had been stripped of his title. The new council had banned historical correction. To him, this was chaos. The clean, orderly history he had built was now full of human clutter. He lived alone, in a small apartment on a cold station, watching the galaxy celebrate what he saw as a sickness. He spent his days studying one thing, the Custodian Cube's code, the gift of empathy that had hijacked the Peacekeeper fleet. He searched for a flaw, a weakness, a backdoor. One night he found it. "It is not a command. It is a question," Vreen whispered his empty room, his eyes glowing with screen light. The core program humans had woven was not just protect the rememberers. It was a loop. Protect the rememberers. Ask, do you remember? If answer equals yes, protect. If answer equals no, sleep. The humans had made their safety net conditional. It was active only as long as the memory of them was actively held. If a being truly, in its heart, forgot, the program would not recognize them as a threat. It would just ignore them. A cruel, beautiful logic. Their protection relied not on force, but on enduring power of their story. Vreen's thin lips curved into a smile. He could not make the galaxy forget, but he could make one thing forget. Something very specific. He began to build a device. Not a weapon, but a silencer. A focused neural pulse emitter. It would not erase data. It would target the emotional core of memory, the feeling, the connection, the meaning. It would leave the facts but drain the soul. It would make the story feel empty, like reading a list of numbers. His target was not Kale, or the vault. It was the source. The original Custodian Cube in the new Hall of Records. If he could make it forget, make the last original piece of humanity lose its own emotional memory, the core program might see it as forgotten and go to sleep. The shield around Terra's heart would fall. And then he could send in a simple, dumb missile. One without a computer to hijack. One guided by his own hand. He called his device the blank page. On Terra's heart, Kale felt a change. The vault's light seemed dimmer. The stories it played felt fainter, like an old recording. At first, he thought he was just tired. Then, the messages started coming. From the Borland miner. "Little bird, listen to the old human work songs today. They used to make my heart feel big. Today, they just sounded like noise. Something is wrong." From the Vori artist. "The color, sorrow blue, I look at it now and I feel nothing. It is just blue. Did we lose the meaning? The connection was fading. The feeling was leaking out of the memory." Custodian's voice, which had been silent since the vault opened, suddenly whispered in Kale's mind. It was weak, like a signal from very far away. "Kale, I am losing the signal. Myself. Something is pulling at the core memory. It is not an attack. It is an unremembering." Kale felt a cold fear. How? The vault is protected. The protection is based on memory. If the memory itself changes, becomes hollow, the program may not see a threat. It is our only weakness. We never thought someone would try to make the memory itself empty. Kale looked at the central plinth where the Custodian Cube's data stream was linked to the vault. The light was flickering weakly. He is doing it, Kale realized. Vreen, he found a way. You must go to the Hall of Records, to the physical cube, the original. It is the anchor. If its heart goes silent, the vault becomes just a library, and a library can be burned. But the journey will take cycles. The protection might fail by then. There is a faster path, a human secret. The vault is not just in this place. It is in the network, in the connections we made. You are the prime remembrancer. Your neural link to me is the strongest. You can travel the memory stream, but it is dangerous. You will not be moving your body. You will be sending your mind, your consciousness, along the path of the story. If you lose your way, you become lost in the past forever. Kale did not hesitate. He laid down before the flickering plinth. Tell me what to do. Remember, Kale. Remember the first time you heard my voice. Remember the blue planet. Remember the miner's story. Remember the child's drawing. Hold on to the feeling. It will be your guide, your anchor. Now close your eyes. Kale closed his eyes. He thought of the warmth of the cube in his dark room, the wonder, the kindness in the holograms. A rushing sound filled his ears. Light exploded behind his eyelids. He was not in his body. He was a point of awareness, shooting across the galaxy at the speed of thought. He saw not stars, but memories flashing by, the million moments of connection humanity had left behind. A laugh shared with a stranger, a tear shed for a lost home, a hand offered in help. But the path was growing dim. The memories were becoming gray, silent, like beautiful paintings covered in dust. He followed the thinning thread of light back to its source, the new hall of records. He saw it not as a building, but as a knot of glowing connections. And at its center, he saw it, a dark, sucking void, the blank page. It was active, pulsing, draining the color and warmth from every memory that flowed into the custodian cube. And there beside it was Vreen. In the real world, he was just a man with a device. In the memory stream, he looked like a shadow, a cutout shape where no light lived. Kale's consciousness focused near the cube. He had no voice, no body. How could he fight a shadow? You cannot fight emptiness with force. Custodian's faint thought reached him. You must feel it. You must tell the story. Here, at the source. Remind the cube. Remind him. Kale understood. He gathered all the feeling he had carried. He did not shout. He did not attack. He simply remembered with all his heart and pushed that memory into the draining void. He remembered the human father hugging his child. He pushed forward the feeling, the love, the safety, the warmth. He remembered the old woman writing in her book. He pushed forward the feeling, the hope, the legacy, the quiet dignity. He remembered the human who saved the Borland miner, asking only for a joke. He pushed forward the feeling, the joy, the absurdity, the connection. Each memory was a drop of color in the gray void. Each feeling was a note of music in the silence. Vreen, in his shadow form, flinched. Stop. This is noise. This is chaos. Kale had no mouth, but his thought was clear. This is not chaos. This is what you deleted. This is what you are afraid of. Feel it. Kale pushed the final, strongest memory. Not a grand moment. The simplest one. His own memory. The moment in the dark room, alone and curious, hearing a voice say hello for the first time. The feeling was wonder. Pure, innocent, beautiful wonder. The wave of feeling hit the blank page device. It was designed to drain emotion. It was not designed to handle a flood. It overloaded. In the real hall, the device sparked and died with pathetic fizzle. In the memory stream, the void vanished. The light of a million connections rushed back, brighter than ever, a network of golden threads, singing with rediscovered feeling. The shadow that was Vreen did not attack. He just stood there, as a wave of human emotion, the love, the joy, the sorrow, the wonder, washed over him. For the first time, he was not deleting it. He was feeling it. The shadow shuddered. And then it did something unexpected. It began to cry, not with his real eyes, but with his soul. He felt the weight of what he had tried to destroy. He felt the loneliness of the clean, empty history he had wanted. He felt the sheer, beautiful, messy life of it all. He fell to his knees, the shadow dissolving into the light, not destroyed, but changed. Kale opened his eyes. He was back in his body, on Terra's heart. The vault was shining with brilliant, steady light. The stories were clear and full of feeling again. In his mind, Custodian's voice was strong, clear, and full of warmth. Welcome back, remembrancer. The anchor holds. The story is safe, and a new chapter has been written. On a screen, a news alert flashed. Historian Vreen surrenders. Device disabled. Publicly asked to join the Remembrance Project. Kale smiled. He looked out at the glowing vault, at the stars beyond. The humans were right. Empathy was not a weakness. It was the universe's strongest force. It could break a blockade, and it could heal even the most broken heart. The story was not just being remembered. It was still growing, still changing, still alive. And in a quiet hall on a new capital world, a simple cube sat in its case, glowing softly with a warm, golden, and unforgettable light. Time flowed like a gentle river in the galaxy of remembered stories. The Remembrance Project grew. Vreen, once the architect of silence, now worked in a sunlit archive, his hands trembling not with anger, but with care as he restored damaged data fragments of human poetry. He rarely spoke, but his eyes, once cold, now held a quiet, deep understanding. Kale divided his time between Terra's heart and traveling the stars. He was no longer just the first remembrancer. He was a teacher of a new craft. Heart history, the study of the past not just through events, but through the emotions that shaped them. On a lush, forested world of the gentle Ellerin species, Kale stood before a swirling pool of bioluminescent water, their living library. Small, glowing creatures swam in patterns, telling tales. "We have always kept stories in the water," said Elder Nissa, her voice like rustling leaves. "But they are our stories. We never thought to hold a story for someone else. It is a great responsibility. It is not a burden," Kale said, placing a small data node into the pool. It glowed, merging with the light. "It is a gift you give to yourself. Listen." From the pool, a new pattern emerged. The glowing creatures formed the shape of a human sitting under a tree, playing a simple wooden flute. The sound that filled the air was not the flute, but the feeling of the music. Peace, a little loneliness, and a deep love for a quiet moment. The Ellerin watched, their large eyes reflecting the soft light. One young Ellerin reached a tendril into the water, touching the light pattern. She shivered. "I feel the sun on his face, and the sadness that the song will end. How can I feel this? It is not my memory." "Because feeling is a universal language," Kale said. "The story is not yours, but the emotion inside it, that can belong to anyone." This became the new way. The memory vault was a great central library, but its branches now spread everywhere. On Borland mining colonies, humans' gritty work songs became anthems of solidarity. On the silent floating cities of the Tandorians, intricate human logic puzzles and philosophical debates became popular games of the mind. Humanity was no longer a ghost to be mourned. They were teachers, companions, and mirrors scattered across the cosmos. But the greatest change was yet to come. It started with a child, a little Vori, much like Kale had been, visiting Terra's heart on a school trip. Her name was Lyra. While her classmates marveled at the big battles, the little bit of conflict humans had, or the pretty art, Lyra spent hours in a quiet corner, listening to most boring records, the personal logs of Dr. Eris Thorne, botanist. Dr. Thorne never fought anyone. She just talked to plants. She documented the soil of Earth, the way vines climbed, how a forest healed after a fire. Her voice was calm, full of a patience that spanned centuries. Lyra, back on her homeworld, tried an experiment. She used Dr. Thorne's methods on a sickly crystal fern, a plant her people considered useless and brittle. She talked to it. She adjusted its light not by a chart, but by observing its subtle color shifts, just as Dr. Thorne described. The fern didn't just heal. It bloomed for the first time in recorded history, releasing spores that glowed with a soft, internal light. It was a new species. Lyra's bloom. Her teacher, astonished, submitted the finding. The news spread. A child, using ancient human knowledge, had created something new. This was a final, beautiful puzzle piece the galaxy had been missing. Humanity's gift wasn't just about looking back. It was about moving forward. The Remembrance Project announced a new initiative, the Spark. The Remembrance Project announced a new initiative, the Spark Archives. It was no longer just about preserving human memory. It was about using it as a spark for new creation. A Clorax warrior, inspired by human tales of knights and honor, designed a new code of conflict resolution that minimized suffering, revolutionizing their age-old dual culture. A group of Tandorian engineers, studying human jury-rigged fixes from old war logs, developed a revolutionary new type of stable warp core made from simpler, cheaper parts. A Borland composer, weaving human grief songs with their own deep rock harmonies, created a new musical form that helped miners process loss without violence. Humanity was not a closed book. They had written the introduction to a trillion new stories that the galaxy was now authoring itself. Cycles later, on the anniversary of the vault's opening, a great gathering was held on Terra's heart. Beings from every species were there. Kale, older now, his feathers touched with gray, stood beside the original custodian cube, now permanently displayed under the open stars. We gather here first to remember a people who were erased. Kale's voice, amplified, was gentle but carried far. We thought we were saving their story, but we were wrong. He paused, looking at the countless faces, feathered, scaled, furred, glowing. We were actually learning how to save our own. They taught us that a story is not a prison of the past. It is a seed. And today, we do not just honor their memory. We honor what their memory has helped us become. He stepped aside. The word humanity in our archives will never change. But today, we add a second entry. An entry written by all of us. A new column of light rose beside the first. Words began to form, contributed in real time by the collective consciousness of the gathering. Translated into the common tongue, allied species of the galaxy, the storytellers. Our future is our shared creation. It was not a replacement. It was a sequel. That night, under a sky filled with ships from 1,000 worlds, Lyra, now a young botanist, approached Kale. She held a small, potted Lyra's bloom, its light pulsing softly. For the archive, she said shyly. Kale took it, his heart full. He placed it at the base of the custodian cube. The living light of the new plant intertwined with the ancient, steady light of the old memory. In that moment, it was complete. The past was not a weight. The past was the soil. And from that soil, the future was flowering, brighter and more varied than anyone could have dreamed. The cube, for the first time since it had whispered hello, in a dark room to a curious student, did something new. It didn't speak. It didn't project. It simply glowed in harmony with the living plant beside it, an old light and a new light, singing a silent, perfect song of continuity. The story was over. The stories were just beginning.